Welcome everyone. We're going to be waiting a couple of minutes for everyone to be able to connect to the workshop today. We had about 30, like over 30 registrations, so we'll just wait for everyone to get a chance to get online. Also, we're going to add the links to the Klaxoon tool so you can get into Klaxoon for the interactive session that we're going to run later on during the workshop. Also, as you join the webinar, you can just type your name, surname, and organization into the chat box so everyone can see who is online. Okay, so there's 22 people connected. I think there's a couple of new ones, but mainly we've got our Act Step-by-Step community of usual participants, which is great. Thank you for staying with us over the different workshops that we had. Thank you again for your contribution. This is really helpful for us to build that methodology and toolbox with you. I think we just wait 1 more minute before starting. We're going to be recording that workshop as usual, so people who were not able to join could watch the replay as well. And we'll send the registration link for the upcoming workshop as well as the replay version to participants, so you can share that with colleagues or anyone who you think might be interested. And for those who just joined, you can click on the Klaxoon link that is into the chat box so you can connect to the app and you will be ready for our interactive session that will start later on in the workshop. Okay, I think we'll just start. So welcome everyone, and thank you for joining us today. Our 5th workshop on developing the Act Step-by-Step methodology, which is to support companies with structuring and implementing ambitious low carbon strategies. And these workshops aim at gathering your feedback as usual and your opinions on key aspects of the methods and tools to develop the low carbon strategy truly embedded into business strategy. So this development work will last until early January 2021 and is led by ADEME, the French Agency for Ecological Transition, and support from a consortium of 3 consultancies. And we're going to do a short round of introduction from our panelists today. So my name is Lisa and I work for the ACT initiative at ADEME. My colleague Edouard is with us today as well.
Hello, thanks Lisa. My name is Edouard Faudrin from ADEME. I work for the ACT initiative also, and I'm involved in the methodology development, but also in the implementation of the ACT initiative in France.
And hello everyone, I am Rémi Marcus, working for ECO2 initiative, and on the consultant side, I am the project manager for the step-by-step development. I work with Jennifer and Ilaria.
Hello everyone, I'm Jennifer from ECO2 initiative, and I work with the team on this project.
And hi everyone, I'm Ilaria, working for Utopia and focusing on the strategic part of this work.
Okay, thank you everyone. And so all the participants are on mute just now, but don't worry, we will give you the opportunity to clarify or develop your ideas by unmuting you as we have a couple of Q&A sessions. You can type your question in the question and answer box, and Edouard will manage those as we have our Q&A time. So don't worry, you'll have time for live discussions. So during today's workshop, which is the number 5 of our 8 planned meetings, we will discuss the specific step of building a concrete action plan based on a new low carbon strategy. All our workshops are on Tuesday at 2 p.m. and they last 1 hour. They are all recorded, and we'll send the link to the replay as well as registration links for the next workshops to participants. As a reminder, the ACT step-by-step method includes 6 steps from diagnosis to implementation and monitoring, which are on the left-hand side of this slide. And those steps involve 4 strategic levels within a company, from governance to metric and targets. In previous workshops, we discussed steps 1 to 4, including relevant tools to conduct related actions identified in each steps. During today's workshop, we will focus on step 5, developing the action plan, and how it connects with step 4, which is about developing a new low carbon strategy. After this brief introduction, Ilaria from Utopia and I will give a brief summary of the previous workshop, including key learnings, and then she will take you through the main information regarding the ACT step-by-step action plan before leading on the interactive session with support from Jennifer from ECO2. This interactive session will include a case study, so it will be very concrete for you. There will be time for question and answer, like I said, and you can type your question in the Q&A box, and Edouard will manage and moderate when Q&A time comes. So now a quick summary of what happened during workshop 4, which was about developing a low carbon strategy. So yeah, although we had 35 registration, only 17 participated, but the ratio between companies and consultancies improved and was quite good. This was a challenging workshop with 3 interactive sessions, so we know it was it might be a bit overwhelming, but we asked participants to provide their input on the proposed strategy toolbox, and we had really interesting feedback, which we will go through later on. And then as a reminder, so the ACT step-by-step process with the 6 steps are on this slide, and they are mapped against the 4 strategic levels, including the low carbon transition management, which is about developing and implementing the action plan. So this is the gray box on the right bottom hand side of the slide. And so during workshop 4, we asked your feedback on the strategic tool, which is required for 3 steps of the ACT methodology. So the one that are in red, outlined in red here, from each issue and challenges to strategic design. And Ilaria will take you through this quick reminder of workshop 4 discussion and key learnings.
Yes, thank you, Lisa. We are now gonna have a look and I'm gonna make a quick recap of the tools we presented last time, so step by step. So the first one, as Lisa already presented, was the issues and challenges, so the step where the company has to identify the internal weaknesses and strengths and external threats and opportunity related to transition and physical changes. The tools that were presented last time is a classic SWOT matrix, but customized to make it consistent when talking about climate strategy. So it is inspired by the 6 climate-related factors of the TCFD, with all the explanation for every factor. And the idea here is to provide an Excel tool that will really facilitate the work of identification and analysis of those issues and challenges related to the transition to a low carbon world. The second step is the vision. So here the company, once assessed the issues and challenges, has to identify and to define the long-term vision of the company. So what will the company look like in 20, 30, 50 years from now in a low carbon economy? To do this step, we believe it is really important to conduct a collaborative analysis. This is the reason why we presented a catalog of different creativity techniques. So several techniques to facilitate our workshop. The idea is to provide a very useful and concrete catalog describing different creativity techniques, but also making comparison and highlighting the advantages and the different options for each one of them. This catalog will also provide all the printable tools, all the printable research set to make it really happen. And the idea is to provide as many examples as possible to really match every company size, sectors, and also reality. With reality, I mean being able to facilitate a workshop physically in presence or in video conference. The third step is the identifications of the strategic axis, the pillars. We are not yet in the action plan that we'll be talking about together today. We are really on the identifications of the main strategic axis of the climate strategy of the company. To do so, we presented a tool inspired by the blue ocean techniques that will facilitate the identification and the creative thinking also. We are not only thinking about what to reduce to fit in a low carbon economy, but also what to create, what to eliminate, and what to rise. And the tools really guide the company in the 9 modules of ACT that we see together again later. And the idea is that the 3 tools will be really interlinked, and the methodology that will be provided will guide the company through these 3 steps that will get to the main content of today, which is the action plan. What did we learn of our last workshop? So we did several activities. We asked you a lot of questions, and what was clear and what your inputs were to improve the rating system of the SWOT matrix, and this will be considered and included in our work of methodology definition in our next steps. It was clear also that there's a lack of knowledge of those creativity techniques, and this will really shape our way of approaching the steps. So the catalogs will really include comprehensive description, but also comparison between the tools, and provide clear guidelines to which of those techniques will match most the reality of the company. And of course, we had a strong demand, for example. It is clear that there is a need of inspiring examples of actions of strategy or strategic pillars and axes. So we really this is really under discussion, and it is clear that we will provide several examples of these tools already completed, so to be used as case studies, but also a list of resources, of online resources, where to find inspiring examples that will guide this work of identifications of the access. And last point, we understood that there is a clear need of make the interconnection between the three steps more clearer. And this will be one of the crucial points in our work of writing the methodology, to make it clear how all the steps interlinked and how they get to a common output. So this was a quick recap of the last workshop, what we talked about and what was the input that you provided. We're now gonna ask you if we missed something. If you have any question, or if you feel that we missed any points, this is really the time to speak out. So maybe Remy, you can use the poll.
Yes, okay, Ilaria. So let me perhaps before we submit the poll, there might be some clarification questions. Any observation or whatever, please do not hesitate. Either by chat, or if you want to speak directly, we can open the microphone for you. So please do not hesitate to ask. And meanwhile, I will submit the poll about what you think of how we presented the feedback. Ilaria presented the feedback on workshop 4. So yes, you are voting.
There is a question in the chat box. Maybe it's for you, Ilaria. What has driven the choice for Blue Ocean in the toolbox you presented?
Yes, of course, we've been investigating several ways of making this step as creative as possible. We recognize that sometimes we are used to think about what to do to reduce the impact, what to reduce, while we wanted really to make this more creative and really thinking about creating maybe new offers and not only cutting, for example, impacts. And this is why these tools, Blue Ocean, that really helps and guide the companies to think differently, match these steps. But maybe you're asking this because you have any suggestion, and please do not hesitate. Any suggestion is welcome.
Thank you, Ilaria.
So I will close the vote now. Most of you have participated. And let me share the results. So you can probably see it. So more or less half of you did not participate in workshop 4, and the others answer yes. Main aspects were taken into account. So this is quite a good news for us.
Maybe for those who, as I can see, that half of the participants didn't participate into last workshop, maybe there's some question for more details. If something was not clear enough. It was a long workshop recapped in 2-3 minutes. So I understand if there's something that is not clear.
There is no question in the chat box, and in the Q&A box it's the same. But just to precise, because there was a question on this, of course, the replay of the workshop number 4 is available, and we will be able to share it with you. We shared it with you already, but if you were not able to exit, we will share it once again after this workshop.
Okay, so if there is no more question, and before we proceed to the next part of the workshop, wanted to get your feedback on another point. Actually, before this workshop, we sent you the presentation, most of the presentation that we are using now for the workshop, in order for you to be able to, let's say, have a preview and be more comfortable to follow the workshop. We are interested in knowing if you had the opportunity to look through this presentation, and if you think it was useful or not. So I will open another poll quickly about this, and that would be a guide for us to know if it is useful to send this presentation before the workshop, or if in practice it's difficult for us to for you to use it. So letting you a few seconds to answer this. Okay, 5 more seconds. Those of you who are not sure, please click and we'll be done. Okay, I will close the vote for now and show the results. So half of you could go through it and thought it was useful, and a bit more than half of you, and the other half did not have the time, or did not, at least did not go through the presentation. Well, it's a very good message for us, and that means we will try and continue this practice of anticipating the workshop with a presentation as long as we can manage it, at least. Okay. Good. Thank you very much for this feedback. It's really useful to us, and perhaps if there is no question, please tell me, Edouard, but then I will proceed with the next.
No question on the chat box. Just to say that some participants are find it very relevant to have the slides before. So just it confirms the results of the poll.
Okay, great, thank you. Okay, so now let us focus on this other part of the process, which is the conversion of the strategic plan into a concrete action plan. Well, as shown by Lisa earlier, this involves steps 4 and step 5, which is the center of our interest for today, of our focus for today. And it includes the identification of the potential actions and the selection of action before a formalized action plan is produced. Well, first, what I wanted to point out about this strategic plan and action plan is that the axis, the dimensions of the strategic plan and of the action plan, in fact, are provided by the ACT approach through the ACT modules, which are shown on the page here. In practice, there are 9 ACT modules in ACT, which together describe the aspects of the low carbon strategy. Some more description about these aspects. In fact, it can be structured into 4 groups. The aspects that involve core business performance, the aspects that involve influence, and the ones on both sides on targets and on business models. There are, in fact, some of the names are not fully explicit. They are the act names, so I'm going to give some more explanations about them. Material investments involves the carbon performance of the own assets, which basically addresses the direct emissions of the company. The immaterial investments in practice involves the low carbon R&D or innovation. Sole product performance addresses the carbon performance of the product on the whole life cycle of the product. So it goes upstream and downstream, the direct emissions. It involves the indirect emissions. And the management is clear in practice. And we, on the influence side, we have suppliers and clients, which deals with the ability of the company to engage its suppliers and its clients into the fight for climate change, against climate change, sorry. And policy engagement is the way the company communicates and engages through business associations with local authorities, etc. The target addresses more specifically the carbon performance targets with carbon performance metrics, and the business models deals with the company business model and its ability to convert its business model into a business model that is adapted, viable in a low carbon economy. So these are the aspects of the low carbon strategies that are set by Act, and that naturally the strategy of the company should address. It's also the case for the action plan that which will convert the strategic plan into a concrete action. In practice, the way the company will be guided through the process is by using the progress grid. And inside the progress grid, the company will face questions that directly refer to the aspects that I just mentioned. For example, in step 4, you have questions like, well, I will not quote all of them, but for example, for sole product performance, does my strategy include maximizing the share of low carbon products in my products portfolio? So it's one of the several questions that the company will face in step 4, strategic plan, and that she will address during that step. We have more example on the page for illustration, but then the idea is to remark that when you go to step 5 and convert that into an action plan, well, the question simply is simply converted into a question that addresses concrete action rather than strategy. Am I taking actions, or am I taking concrete actions on my products portfolio to increase the share of low carbon products? Okay, the company will face a dozen between 12 and 20 questions at each of these steps, step 4 and step 5, that are really structured across the 9 modules of Act as I presented them before. And going back to these models, one remark about these models is that they really not correspond to the way a company is organized. This is something we want to discuss with you during the interactive session, and we'll go further during the session. But everybody, I guess, has in mind a standard, typical organizational chart, which is this one or similar to this one, depending on the profile of the company, with the supporting functions on the left here. And the operational function on the right. Well, this clearly does not match with the Act models. So one question about the process of identifying the actions of the action plan is who will be involved in the work, and how will this work be organized within the company. We'll get back to that a bit later. Now focus on the action plan itself with the three sub-steps: the identification of the actions, the selection of the actions, and the formalized action plan. Well, the identification of the actions follows directly the design of the strategic plan, and of course the design of the strategic plan. The strategic plan will be the basis for the identification of the actions. It's not the only input to the identification of the actions, obviously. For example, the initial diagnosis will be a good basis because it consists of, in particular, inventorying all the existing actions within the company, which can be quite numerous and significant, and that will also be a necessary input to the work. Another major input is, as we just saw, the questions that the company is facing during this step 5. So these are the main inputs to that identification of the action. And what I just pointed out is the question that of the process of this identification and who will be involved in the design of the action plan in particular. Now, after identification of the actions, there is a selection of the actions. Good action in an action plan, in general, is seen is a smart action. I guess you know this. A smart action is an action that is, well, this is an acronym. SMART is specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and timely. But this is an action, a good action for an action plan in general. Now, what we have is an action plan that has to be focused on low carbon strategy or low carbon strategy management. And the question we have is, what would make an action plan not only smart, but climate smart? That is smart and efficient in terms of conducting the company into the low carbon transition. And then the third sub-step here is the formalized action plan. After selecting the actions, well, the action plan is formalized. In practice, how will these new criteria that make the actions not only smart but climate smart, how will they be integrated into the action plan, these criteria? So this is a third question that we have, and on which we'll come back during the interactive session. So it's now time for a Q&A before we get into the case study that we'll use as a support for the interactive session and to Klaxoon. So yes, please go ahead.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thanks, Rémi. There is a question from Sylvie Verret. Do you use a global reporting initiative to create a strategy in order to report at the end of the year? So I understand the question is, what is the link between a GRI and act step by step? I don't know who want to answer for this one.
Well, I guess I can do it. At that stage, we are not using the GRI for ACT step by step. In fact, there is a very strong relationship with ACT, and we are structuring the process and the strategic plan and action plan architecture using the ACT approach. We are not making any direct link with the GRI, but that might be interesting if you tell us why you think it could be a good thing. So this is Sylvie Verret, right?
Yes, exactly.
So if you don't mind, I will
maybe open the mic. Yeah,
open the microphone. Yes, if you...
Oui, vous m'entendez?
Oui.
Yes.
Yes. No, it's just a question because I think your approach is really close to the GRI. You know, GRI is an international standard. So, I mean, it's easier to compare your company with other company when you have a standard? It's just a question because you are very close to them, and for me, because I know a little bit the GRI, it's just very interesting. It's just to combine your approach and the GRI in terms of strategy, because it's very close, maybe to, at the end of the year, to use their standard to report.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's a really good idea. So I don't know if you do that on, or it just.
In fact, the development that we are carrying out now is also includes the development of a correspondence table that aims to establish the correspondence between Act Step by Step and the format of Act Step by Step and its questions and indicators with relevant approaches that are similar, or let's say pairs with Act Step by Step. And so what you are telling us is that GRI should definitely be part of the approaches that are for which the correspondence is made and is explicited, at least. And we'll have a closer look into GRI and evaluate to which point it can be a good, let's say, architecture to use in order to fit for the two approaches to fit.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for this contributions, very useful.
Yeah, thank you for this contribution. There is another question from Anne Simon Barquero, which is the Act Action Plan designed to be compatible with the French GHG inventory obligation on the transition plan? So again, is there a link between the French GHG inventory regulation and the Act Step-by-Step Action Plan?
Yes, well, of course, the French bilan GES is one of the let's say the framework methodologies we have in mind while developing Act Step by Step. Although the let's say the perimeter of Act Step by Step and the targets are international, and Act Step by Step will fully feed the requirements of the transition plan of the French bilan GES. Clearly, in fact, it probably goes beyond this the requirements of this transition plan.
Okay, thank you, Remy. And I don't see any other question from the participants. So I guess we can go with the other, with the last part of the workshop. Thanks for your questions.
Okay, thank you for your contributions. And then I will leave the floor to, and thank you, Edouard. And I will leave the floor to Ilaria.
Yes.
For the description of the case study.
Yes. So we decided to do our activities on Klaxoon that you will see later based on a concrete case study to make it as useful as possible. So here we are looking at a medium company called Cleanit. It is a cleaning product manufacturing company with only one production site and one head office based in Marseille, in France. They started the process of strategy definition with Act Step by Step. So previously they assessed their carbon footprints, but they don't have yet a clear climate strategy. So in 2018, they developed a 100% natural and made in France products range. So there's a clear will to shift toward a new range of products so that now covers 30% of the overall portfolio. So they completed the first 3 steps of the Act Step by Step methodology, and they defined a clear vision toward 2050, committing to cut their emission by 50% compared to 2008 by 2030, and to contribute to carbon neutrality by 2050. So here, just to give you an overall idea of the case study, in the next slide, we are looking at one of the stages of the project. So they completed the identifications of the strategic access thanks to the blue ocean. As you can see, they identified what to create, what to eliminate, what to rise, what to reduce in relation to the different modules of ACT that Rémi presented previously. I'm not gonna get into the details of every strategic pillars, but let's have a look to the 3 axes highlighted here. So the first one is to create a new communication strategy to engage their clients, focusing on recycling, to remind customers that packaging is recyclable and to encourage them to recycle. This by 2021. Related to internal management, they identified the potential strategic access of eliminating all wasted sent to landfill from the offices by 2022. And regarding the sold product performance, they decided to reduce the impacts from the end-of-life management of all their products by 2025. So we're just gonna focus on those 3 strategic axes, and here you can see one more step. So starting from those strategic axes, they identified some actions. We have here some examples. Don't worry, you don't have to keep all those informations in mind. All those elements will be under our eyes even during the activity. So just have a look to the examples. To engage the clients and improve the communication on recycling, they identified 3 potential actions: to create awareness campaign via social media, to redesign packaging to support the awareness campaign, and to create a promotional offers on recycle and refill solutions. To fulfill the management engagement of eliminating waste sent to landfill from the offices, from the head offices in Marseille, they identified 3 potential actions. So develop a digital invoicing system to eliminate paper in invoicing goods, receipts, and everything else. To reinforce the office recycling by installing new recycling bins, but also launching an internal campaign to raise awareness on recycling in the offices. And finally, for the 3rd axis, so reducing the packs from the end of life, they identified 3 actions: identify local partners to develop packaging collection services, to develop a new service of refill and deliver, and finally, to develop a new range of solid cleaning products. So this exercise is very useful because it's now gonna guide our interactive activity, and we can pass on Klaxoon, where we're gonna look at those actions all together.
Just Ilaria, before the Klaxoon session, there was some clarification questions from the participants. The first one is about the fact that why we don't have quantified targets in this example for some targets. And the second comment and the second question is the following one. On this example, how can you measure the impact gap between the use of the different products? So just more clarification question from this case study.
Yes. I think that the activity we'll do together will answer to some of those questions, because the activity will be focused exactly on how to measure and how to fix measurable targets, knowing that this is a part of the action plan. So for now, let's keep in mind this information, and of course we will answer to those questions and work on that together on Klaxoon. Thank you for the questions, are really pertinent.
Thanks, Ilaria.
Yeah, thank you, Ilaria. So now we will go to Klaxoon. I just put the link on the chat box, and Remy will share his screen, so you can follow the different activities. So the first one is a simple question about how clear was the presentation so far. The presentation Remy, Lisa, and Ilaria just did about going from the strategy to the concrete action plan. And then we will have three main activities as Remy just presented, based on the three questions we have for this workshop. We're a bit on a rush, so I'll close this activity and we will go to the next one, which is a brainstorming to identify the link between the organizational chart of a company and the different modules. So what you have to do here is to take the different bullets, black bullets on the right side, and to put them on the different boxes in the table to indicate who you think should work on the identification of the concrete actions. And I leave the floor to Remy to explain this.
Yes, thank you, Jennifer. Well, I think you just did it, but let's assume the CNIT is organized according to the functions that are in a column on the left here, which is basically the standard organizational charts that I presented a few minutes ago. You have the aspects of the low carbon strategy that are on the top lane of the table, and the idea is that you want to work in small groups in order to identify the relevant actions aspect by aspect. Who will you involve in terms of department in order to work on the subject? So I see that some of you have already started moving the bullets. You see there is a bucket of bullets on the right. You can just click and drag and drop a bullet. You can do it, drag and drop a bullet into a cell in order to have someone of this department to work on this aspect.
Remy, maybe can you precise the meaning of the red zones in the table? There is a comment.
You are right.
Box.
Yes, you are right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Edouard. Of course, there are subjects for which it is obvious that a given department will work on the subject. For example, the board and strategy will work on the business models. So we already turned red the corresponding cells, and you can concentrate on the other cells. We don't want to waste your time, and yes, you can just feed the other cells, because these ones are quite obvious.
Thank you, Remy.
So we give you some time to feed this table. It's something that is quite important, because in fact it's a correspondence that is not only restricted to the design of the action plan, but more generally in ACT, it's quite valuable to know, to identify which of the functions in the company should work on which subject, ACT subject, and it's something that hasn't been done so far in the ACT approach. So we are really keen on seeing what it gives and how the clouds of points will will show which who should work on which subject. We're giving you some more time. Well, the board and strategy department should work on the management aspects. That's what you say. Innovation on material investments, which, for example, which involves direct emissions and the assets, the performance of the assets of the company. Okay, well, the table is quite big. Huh? There are many cells, so this is why we need to give you quite a bit of time in order to go through the whole table. Yes, it's a bit complicated to grab the bullets. That's right. You can zoom in order to have the bullets bigger and to make it easier to grab them. But we had to balance between having many bullets and having them big enough. Mm-hmm. Well, this table is being populated little by little. Good, and we're starting to see some cells and some correspondence that is being made clear by your contributions. Okay, Jennifer, you will tell when it's time to stop.
Yes, I think we can go to the next activity. Sorry, but we have 2 more activities to do today.
Yes. A big bullet is not more important than a small bullet. Huh? Just to mention. Okay, let's go, Jennifer. No problem. But thank you for this exercise. Very useful. We see some correspondence coming, and we will work on this in order to take benefit of this table and of your work. Thank you.
So for the next activity, I'll let Ilaria explain.
Yes. So here we see again our strategic axis and the action that we talked about previously. Of course, we all know that a good action plan, it has to be smart. So with a specific target, measurable. So with the indicator that help us to see the improvements and see if the goals are reached, achievable. So it has to lead to a feasibility analysis in terms of technical, human, economic resources. It has to be realistic, which means that with all those resources and with the deadlines assigned, this can be reached. And it has to be time-based. But what's missing? And here we take, again, the question that Remy asked you previously. What are the other criteria that are missing here to make this plan climate smart? How can we identify other elements, other criteria to to evaluate, to see if those actions can be implemented. So now we can add some post-it that you can put in the white space to fill those actions with new criteria that should be added in a climate smart plan. Which are the other criteria to qualify those actions, not only in terms of time, economic resources, what makes them aligned with a good climate strategy. Yes, I can see date of campaign, someone added with impact measurements. This is really related to the classic SMART criteria. And of course, they have to be included. Is there anything else? Are there any other letters that can be added? Yes, I can see here the plan has to be aligned with the principle of the Paris Agreement. No fossil fuels beyond 2050, for example. Yeah, this is great. In line with international climate strategy. Yes. Proportionate to company impacts and available levers. Yes, this can be aligned with the realistic criteria. Acceptability of behavioral change. Yeah, this is interesting. And this is something that is not included in the 5 classic criteria of a SMART action plan. So if I try to resume this a bit, engagement of the operation management, XCOM and board, yes. ODD related. So I'm trying to identify between all those post-its, those that are really adding some more criteria, more related to climate. If I can resume some of those, there is a clear alignment with the international frameworks or international climate commitments. We can see Paris Agreement, international climate strategy, the cost and scope of emission associated with the action, of course. This is something that is not normally included. Can be, yes. Share of local partners with yearly targets. Okay, this is in line with the specific criteria. Is the action a radical change? This is, I guess, similar to, is the action a radical change? Okay, this is also new. So those actions can be aligned with international climate frameworks or climate engagement. They have to produce a radical change. They can be judged on their acceptability of behavioral change. Good reporting system to evaluate the achievements or delay of the plan. Yes, this has to be, this is still in line with the measurable criteria. There's a post-it that I cannot read. I don't know if someone can. Okay, governance, commitment, how the commitment, which roles. Yes, this is also related with the realistic criteria. So there's a team that has to, those actions have to become the to-do of someone. Maybe not climate smart, but climate objective that are smart, compatible. Maybe climate smart, but climate objective that are smart, compatible. This is not super clear to me. Yes, of course. Now it's clear to me. I agree. This is why it is important for us to identify which other criteria have to be included when analyzing those actions and see if to implement them. Carbon impact, yes. Contribution to low carbon strategy, yes. Frequency of measurement, okay, this is more classic.
I'm sorry, we will have to go through the last activity.
Yes.
Thank you for all the inputs. Ilaria, do you have any idea of which idea we will take
Yes.
to the next activity?
Yes, if you agree, I would put all together the post-it that are suggesting to have actions that are aligned with international frameworks or international engagement. So we can call these alignments with international climate action or climate framework.
Yeah.
I can also see someone that it's similar to others, the level of acceptability of the behavioral change that can go with is this a radical change? And maybe yes, do you have space?
I was just saying it will probably be enough, as
Okay,
we will
great.
have only 5 to 10 minutes max to do this activity.
Great. Yes.
It's okay.
Knowledge, yes.
I close the activity and we will go to the last one
Yeah,
for
and thank
today.
you, everyone. We are going to look in the details of the criteria suggested, of course. So here what we ask you is to include those criteria in the action plan, in the real action plan. So as you can see, it's the same. Those are the same actions that the other activity. We just selected one of them, so we can find again for the clients to create awareness campaign via social media. We can see for the management to develop a digital invoicing system, and to the solid product performance to develop a new range of solid cleaning products. And as you can see, we already completed the classic criteria. The exercise 92, we are adding, as you can see, the alignment with international climate action. This can be the Paris Agreement or other international climate strategy. How we embed this in the action plan? It is clear that for the timely criteria, we have to set a deadline, a year, a date, a time. It is clear that to be specific, we have to set a specific goal to reach. For achievable, it is clear that we have to think about the economic costs. But for a criteria has the alignment with the national climate action, what should we take into consideration? What makes the action ready to be implemented when considering those two new criteria that we added? How can evaluate if it is in line with international climate action? Should we select some frameworks? Should be in line with international emission reduction targets? And for the level of acceptability, how we judge if those actions are acceptable, the level of change imposed, set by those actions is acceptable or not. It is less evident, it is less clear as it is for the other criteria, the SMART classic criteria. How can we do the same exercise with those new criteria? Because those are good ones, but it is important that it matches a real action plan and that it is feasible. Yeah, it is very difficult for acceptability, I agree. this is one of the reasons why we decided to do this kind of activity, even if it's hard. It is hard for you and it's hard also for us, but it's essential. It's a step that we have to go through because those criteria that are normally used to judge good actions of a climate strategy are not enough. Alignment with international climate action, we can see CO2 emissions evaluation, of course, yes. Assess versus business as usual. Yes, this is interesting. More details are needed on reduce the impacts, for example, how much GHG emissions are saved. Yes. Yes, true. For the level of acceptability and the action of developing a digital invoicing, we have our clients able to adapt to digital invoicing. Yes, this is really interesting. This is the question that should be asked. Well, then how to answer, it is another point. Yes, IEA scenarios or local strategies if existing. Yes, this is really interesting. A poll, yes. Great, why not? So someone suggesting to make a survey to define the level of acceptability for the action of creating awareness campaign via social media. Yeah, this is interesting. So probably, yes, survey. Yes, probably engaging external stakeholders. So it makes this exercise of fill the SMART criteria, not only internal to the company, but also engaging the external stakeholders and see if they are ready to accept this kind of change and if this will make the action successful, because this is the main target. I can see what would grow clients' interest for that solutions. Yes. Yes. Co-developing the paper-free invoice with customers. Again, this is really interesting. We have 2 points that are actually not included in the classic SMART criteria. It looks like it is necessary to look outside of the company for more climate-related criteria. So it's not something that we do on our own within the company, but when see if the action plan is climate smart, it requires to look outside of the company and engage external stakeholders. I can see for the level of acceptability of the creations of the awareness campaign, the results have to be alive. I mean, the number of plastic bottles is saved by using a fountain in the airport. In US have the, yeah, of course. Okay, I can see the kind of examples you're making. I agree, this is really interesting. Ecosystem, blue ocean thinking, yes. I have also customer goodwill. Will it affect existing product range? Yes. This is related to the development of a new range of solid cleaning products. This is really interesting also. And I think I read them all. I don't know if there is any other, but thank you. This is really interesting.
Thank you, everyone. Sorry, we are running a bit late today. Thanks for your contributions. I'll end the activity, and please take a moment to give a rate to the meeting, and you can also leave a comment. It's very useful for us to improve the different workshops. And I let Lisa and Remy conclude this workshop.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Ilaria. Thank you everyone for staying with us. We did run a bit over time today. I'm sorry. But I think it was really useful to go back to what we did during workshop 4, as well as the interactive session that we had today, because they were really linked together. So our next workshop is in 2 weeks' time, Tuesday the 24th at 2 p.m. again, and we will send you the link to register to the next workshops in the email with the slides, as well as the link to watch this workshop as a replay version. So you can share that with colleagues who might be interested in the Act step-by-step approach, as well as any other stakeholder. And I think we might not have addressed all the questions today. So what we do is we try to answer those questions before the next workshop, as we probably will send some material before the next workshop, as we did for today, because apparently it did help to prepare. So thank you. And Remy, if you want to add anything.
Nothing. That was perfect, Lisa. Thank you, everyone, for your contributions. This is very helpful, and see you in 2 weeks from now.
Thank you, everyone. Have a good afternoon.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye.